Welcome to Live Limitless, the podcast. I am your host, Sierra Rainge-Jones, vision activator, brand story strategist, ghostwriter, and CEO of Live Limitless Media Group, founder of Limitless Cares Foundation. Where in this season, we're going to focus on purpose, culture, and the shift. So to all my dreamers, go-getters, visionaries, leaders, and creatives, get on in here and take a seat. You are in the right place to be inspired and informed. We've got work to do. Let's chat. All right, ladies and gents, thank you for joining us today on the Live Limitless podcast. Today, I'm so excited to interview the Michelle Dennis. Now, you guys may know her from her best-selling book, Adopting Courage, A Survivor's Guide to Triumph After Trauma. And if you've read the book, then you already know just how powerful it is and all of the really great resources that she has included. So today, we are going to be discussing some of those resources from her book. My favorite, of course, is Honoring, Respecting Boundaries. So, Michelle, welcome to the Live Limitless podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. So let's just talk about boundaries. Let's just keep it real and have a real conversation about boundaries, because I find that it's so necessary, especially in a time right now. Like, I don't know what it is about COVID-19 that forced us all to come face to face with our real issues, our weaknesses, our shortcomings, and most importantly, what we need to survive these uncertain times. I think we've all pretty much gotten used to just going with the hustle and bustle of life and not really taking intentionality to focus on self-care.
Right.
Like prioritizing self-care, managing relationships, and then even demanding healthy relationships, and even, drawing those lines that we like to call boundaries around my personal safe space. Like, this is what I need to live and live well. And then those who engage with me, I need them to respect these lines. And so let's have a conversation about boundaries. What do you have to say about boundaries?
It's kind of touchy because some people don't know what boundaries are. Some people don't know what the steps are to even know what someone can and cannot do. Is it going to be a touching thing, or is it going to be some space, my space, or, or me just saying no.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Me just saying no to having a good time. It might be good for you, but it may not be good for me.
Ooh, that's good.
It might be not my time to hang out. Maybe I don't. Why should I have to jeopardize my happiness, my joy, my pain, whatever it is, to accommodate you? And so those things are, it's one or the other. It's like there's different types of boundaries. There's boundaries where someone's pushing up on you and you don't need that type of touching. It's just like, the social distancing thing.
Give me 6 feet.
Yeah, give me 6 feet. I don't need your breath on me.
Right.
So it's what would you like to talk about? Like, what kind of boundaries? Let's talk. What I really want to talk about? I want to talk about, how people think that they can have control of what they can and cannot do, or they control what you can and cannot do, like in a relationship.
I like that. So 2 things. So boundaries is about control, and us having the power to control how we engage in the world and how we engage with others. And it's also about learning how to say no. I think that's so powerful, because when we learn how to say no, it makes our yes more powerful and more impeccable without the fear of hurting someone's feelings. I love how you said earlier, no, it has nothing to do with being mean.
No.
It's not about being mean at all. It's letting you know where I stand. And we have to be comfortable enough to take a stand and say, no, thank you. I'm not going to come this time. No, please don't call me after work hours, or whatever your personal boundaries, business boundaries are. Then boundaries, it stretches. These are my personal boundaries. These are my business boundaries. These are my boundaries for my husband. These are the lines that he better not try me.
Right. Right.
Even with my kids, they know what time it is. I can get them a look. Everybody has to respect boundaries, because it tells people how to engage with you.
Exactly. And then there's those type of boundaries where, you know, you have friends that think they can call you anytime, that they can, you pick up the phone and you're supposed to answer to everything they've got going on. And they forget that some of the boundaries are, how about you call me and see if I even want to deal with what you got going on. Ask me that first.
Yes, I think we need to normalize that as women,
Mm-hmm.
especially since we can be a little bit emotional. I've had conversations with friends and it's ended with, "Ooh, listen, we have been over this like 20 times. I think it's time for you to see a therapist." Like, no shade, no, not. But
You're
seriously,
right. It's like,
we've all done therapy. I don't think it's shade. It's just like, you need more support than I can give you.
Right.
And with me trying to manage my load, and then I love you, so I definitely want to engage, but I can't carry my load and carry yours. If this makes sense, we need like some outside support. We need a professional.
Right.
And that's fine, because I don't think people understand how hard life is to navigate emotionally right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to, be unapologetic about preserving our peace.
Right.
And guarding our space and guarding our hearts. And it's no ill intentions, but if you disrupt my peace, then I have to rearrange or reassess how I engage with you.
Exactly.
And it's not about you, it's about me. And for me, I've always had an issue with putting myself first. It always felt selfish. I never wanted to let people down. And I realized I was operating out of a space of people pleasing. For those of us who've experienced childhood trauma and things of that nature, it kind of comes along with the territory. So as you begin to heal, you have to unlearn all those toxic traits. It's okay for you to say no.
Right.
The people who love you and respect you will adjust.
Right.
It's those people who benefit the most from you not having boundaries who get upset.
Exactly.
Because it shouldn't upset you if I say, "I'm unavailable right now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't handle what I'm going through and what you're going through at the same time.
Nope.
Can I call you later? Right now I'm with my kids and my husband. Can this wait?" I mean, that should not, you standing up for yourself and what you need should not be detrimental to a relationship if that relationship is healthy.
Well, usually when it's not healthy, it's because you have someone toxic in your life. When you have someone toxic in your life and you're trying to deal with what you got going on and trying to deal with what they have going on, it just doesn't work. And that's where the conflict is going to come in.
Yes.
So I was actually a people pleaser, and it was actually heartbreaking because at the end of all of that, I looked like the bad guy. So it's like, after a while you have to come to some type of agreement with yourself of when are you going to stop doing all this stuff. But it took me to go to therapy to even get to this point where I understand, like, hey, I can understand someone else's boundaries, but I need to set some rules for myself. Because I was good at, setting myself apart, because just like that people pleasing thing, I don't want to, bother that person. There's sometimes you have to, we talked about this before, that you got to force yourself on certain things, especially when it comes to business. It may not be, it's not trying to be pushy, but it's trying to be, productive at the same time.
That's big. I like that you said that, because sometimes it's another thing that I noticed that those of us who suffer from childhood trauma, we have an issue taking up space in the world.
Right.
We don't want to do too much, say too much, be a bother.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten used to just, let me just stay out of the way because this is my safe space. And so, especially in business, I'm learning now, business, and I saw someone post this online, business is really just a personal development journey disguised as business. Because when you get into business, you realize all of your weak spots.
Exactly.
And you either adjust and level up, you learn and apply what you learn and level up, or you stay stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm learning is sometimes it's not asking for too much to follow up.
Right.
Because at first I would never follow up with people. I have like a huge issue with following up. It's like, well, I don't want to bother them. I don't want them to think that I'm getting on their nerves or whatever. This is all in my mind. They were really just busy or hadn't got to the email yet. But in my mind, it's like, I don't want to be a bother. And so what we have to understand, that's why boundaries are so important, to communicate our boundaries.
Communication.
And something as simple as, like, in my email, when someone emails me now, it automatically tells them, hey, give us about 48 hours to get back with you because of our high volume, versus not saying anything at all.
Right.
So it's teaching people how to engage with us. That's what boundaries are.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest issue is that we don't always communicate our boundaries, and that's why communication is so important. Mm-hmm. Because I have this toxic trait. I'll tolerate and tolerate and tolerate until one day I decide, you know what, I'm done.
Oh, I'm the same way. Cut you off, smooth criminal. Like we done, and you won't even know it.
But that's not fair to them either.
It's not fair. It's not fair to
That's
yourself
our
either.
toxic trait.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a
not
toxic
even.
trait.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's another thing that you'd have to go to therapy for because it's running.
So one of my favorite online therapists, her name is Nedra. I'm gonna go to something that she just posted, and it literally says like before you cut someone off. Ooh, I felt so triggered. It
That's
says
probably gonna trigger me.
I felt triggered, and it says questions to ask before cutting someone off. One, have I set any boundaries? Two, what are some possible ways that the other person might respond to boundaries? Three, is the other person aware of my issues with them? Have I been harmed beyond repair? Is the other person willing to repair the relationship? And then what were the healthy parts of the relationship? So for me, like in my mind, this is my toxic trait. Don't judge me, y'all. In my mind, I'm taking tallies. Like I would put up with the most. I'm so patient. I give so much grace.
Whew.
And then my therapist's like, but no one said you had to. Like you can literally check something the first time it happens.
Exactly.
You don't have to give someone grace when they're disrespecting. You can say, you know what? I really don't like what you said to me. In the future, you know what I mean? You don't have to just put up with it.
Mm-mm.
But in my mind, okay, I'm gonna let it slide. All right, I'm gonna let it rock. All right, sis, you got that.
Right, but that's snapping. Then you're gonna be on snaps, messing around.
The fourth time, okay, I'm done.
Right, or snapped.
But it's like, and they're looking at me crazy. Like, first of all, sis, I didn't even know I was getting on your nerves. I didn't even know that you were offended.
Because
right now.
Yes,
but it's like,
right.
That's not fair to them. Like, address it up head on.
Mm-hmm.
So once I started to implement this, of course, it was after going to therapy, and my therapist helped me to recognize what my toxic traits were. Because sometimes we don't realize that we're the toxic one in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So we always have to assess ourselves first. And so I'm like, you know what? I do have a bad habit of I'll tolerate, and either spaz or cut someone off.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to them because I didn't give them the opportunity to adjust to what my needs were because I never communicated.
Right. You just let everything slide.
And then just cut them off.
Yeah.
I think people deserve to know where they got you messed up at.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It gives them an opportunity to adjust. And then moving forward, if they don't, okay, now I can cut you off.
Right. But now you saying this, it was always for me was I don't want to cause conflict, so don't say nothing at all. So that was my issue. So it, like you said, it was one or the other, snap or cut off. And
because in my mind, this is better than the conflict.
Right. Exactly. Because not even that. It's like I had a hard time explaining myself. I would overly explain it and it wouldn't come out the way it was supposed to come out. Like I overthought it.
So it's easier to stay quiet.
It's easier to just be quiet because I would overthink what was going on because in my mind I'm fighting. Like, I'm really like punching the air in my mind. Like I would knock you out.
Counting the 10 in my head.
Right.
Something else that she said that stuck out to me when the question is, have I been harmed beyond repair? Am I willing to repair the relationships?
Right.
And this is when you have that assessment to decide, is this person just not perfect or are they not worth it?
Right.
Do I value the relationship enough to have this tough conversation? Because a lot of times it's a hard conversation that we're avoiding. I don't want the conflict.
Right.
Because I don't know how to express myself when I'm angry. That doesn't involve swinging of hands.
Mm-hmm.
And so until I get to that point to develop more coping and stress management and conflict resolution skills, I'm going to just stay quiet. I'm going to walk away.
Right.
But that's toxic. And we too grown for that.
Way too grown. But there's, like, I can remember, when I was younger, I would just, if I had enough, I'm like, I'm done. Leave me alone. I got my own problems and you're just tearing me to pieces. So, you kind of know when it's, enough is enough. You already know that, instead of trying to go back and forth with the person, you just say, you got to let it go. You know why. Why do we have to go through so many different, trials to even try to be friends or I'm
so glad you said that. If oh my God, I don't even know where to start because I don't want to be in a relationship or a friendship that requires me to constantly have to defend myself,
right?
Feel emotionally attacked, feel abused. we just not a good fit.
No.
Like friendship should not be that hard.
No, and
Like,
you shouldn't be
granted,
abusing someone just to be a friend.
It shouldn't take all of that.
No.
Like granted, every relationship is going to have a time where there's a need for a hard conversation,
Mm-hmm.
but it should be every day.
Mm-mm.
It shouldn't be every time we talk.
Nope.
You know what I mean? It just means that we're just not a good fit.
Right.
And just like you said, we have to be okay with, okay, this is what I can walk away from. This relationship doesn't serve me. This relationship drains me. This relationship brings out the worst in me. You said something earlier that was so profound. You said sometimes we're around people and they're still filling us up, but with the wrong things.
With the wrong things. You overflowing in negativity, not positive.
Yes.
Positive, solutions, to whatever it is that you got going on.
Mm-hmm. It affects what you attract. It affects your outlook, but it just affects you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be consumed with negative emotions, negative ideas, or negative conversations.
Right.
And if me engaging with you brings out
negativity,
I'm cool.
Yeah, time for you to roll out. Okay.
So in your best-selling book, Adopting Courage, on page 45, you talk about emotional boundaries. It says, having emotional boundaries allows you to set limits without being afraid that you are upsetting or disappointing others. Being able to ask for what you want and deserve, realizing that you have a right to say no, and setting limits without that fear that you'll be abandoned or hurt is an essential part of being able to establish good emotional boundaries. An effective way of creating and maintaining good boundaries is to create your own Bill of Rights. For example, I have the right to choose with whom and when I want to be sexual. I have the right to turn down sex, even with my partner. I have the right to my own personal space and the right to keep others out. Mm-hmm. I have the right to say no and not feel guilty.
Right.
See, that was a big one for me because even when I learned to start saying no, I would say no and then feel so bad about it. Like, we really could have did it. Did you?
But then you have, I've been in situations where there's a guilt trip. And why do I have to feel guilty about my space, my body, my temple? Why do I have to feel a certain way? And I beat myself up with this one, and it was like, you can't go back and change anything, but I know better now, it's one of those things that it was a learning process, but I've been through a lot of things and didn't get the help I needed when I needed it. So it took me to a place where I was in a situation where I just let things happen because I didn't want anything to, like I said, I didn't want conflict or I didn't want to feel guilty about something that I didn't do, but it goes back to childhood, certain things, and it all connects. Now that I'm older, I know, and if I would have connected it back then when I should have, or if I would have got the right help for that, I would be a totally different person. But I am who I am right now. And I'm okay with it.
Because you turned out damn good.
Yeah, I think I'm all right. Girl. I think I'm all right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
But I love that saying no and without the guilt. You know what I mean? And then I realized, just like you said, why do I feel bad about saying no? And it's because I was unclear about what I really wanted. Mm-hmm. I would take anything. Like, okay, you want me to do this? You want me to do this? Running around, doing everything for everybody. And then you experience emotional, mental, spiritual bankruptcy, just pouring. And so for me, I had to get really, really clear about what do I want? And I find that so many women, even with coaching so many women, I realize sometimes as women, we don't know exactly what we want. Mm-hmm. We're so used to serving and pouring and nurturing. We're really, really good at taking care of everybody around us, but we lose touch on how to take care of
yourself. Yep.
And so for me, I really had to get into a place in my life where I had to put myself at the forefront. What do you need to be happy? Mm-hmm. When you're alone, there's nobody around for you to serve, no one around for you to empower. What makes you happy? What fills you up? And I had to take time to figure that out because I didn't want my happiness to be reliant on my accomplishments. I didn't want my happiness to be reliant on my children or even my husband. I needed to be happy by myself, in my own body, within myself, period. And then once I can figure that out, now I can establish what it is that I want. I want to be happy with anything. Mm-hmm. I'm clear about what makes me happy. And so then it becomes a lot easier to walk away from things that don't bring you happiness or don't bring you that peace.
Right.
You know what I mean? So knowing what you want helps out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I know what I want, I can easily identify what I don't want in people and relationships and opportunities and businesses and whatever. This does not contribute to what I want.
Right.
And so I can walk away from this. I can say no to this and yes to this. Because
Right.
this brings me closer to my goal. This takes me away from it.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that I found to be really, really helpful in helping me maintain my boundaries, peace, and happiness.
Mm-hmm. And you don't need to, I call it crowding your space.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, crowding your space when you have too much going on, and it's just, you can't balance all of that. You know, you get some people, you might have too many friends. You got to let go of the ones that ain't really there for your benefit. When I say benefit, I mean your happiness, your joy, your peace. Some of those friends are not that they don't just fit in that, you know, in your space.
That's right. And you got to know. And you
Mm-hmm.
got to know.
And you got to know.
Some friends are for seasons too.
Exactly.
And I think we have to learn not to be bag ladies.
Right.
Just carrying a bunch of people, a bunch of old, learn how to let some stuff go.
Yep.
The buck stops here.
Mm-hmm.
This season has ended, and it's okay.
It's okay.
Because life goes on.
Right.
Greater is ahead. This was great while it lasted. I'm going to release this not with resentment, not with frustration. I'm going to release it with love.
Yeah,
because
peace.
Peace. Because I appreciate what it taught me, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Any lesson is a level up.
Yep.
So I appreciate the lesson that it brought me. But I'm going to release it here so I can move on. Because I know that greater is ahead.
Absolutely.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for taking the time to sit down with me today on the Live Limitless podcast. I appreciate your authenticity, your transparency, and I hope that someone out there will decide to adopt courage as well. So tell our audience where they can learn more about you and what you're up to. So,
what I'm doing right now, I'm actually, I do stuff with foster care. I have a cause, which is Enough is Enough. And you can find me on enoughisenough.com, or you can link into the bio on IG, where you can connect right to the page. There is, I have merchandise that I actually donate all proceeds to foster care. I don't do anything with that money, but try to help other, agencies or, women in need or so. And my book, you can actually get my book on iBook. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes and Nobles, and soon to be audio. So we're working on that now. So if you want to,
so stay connected.
Stay connected. You know where to connect.
And follow her on IG at Michelle Dennis. That's where you can find all the links in her bio to get a copy of her best-selling book, Adopting Courage. And stay tuned because she's going to be making some really, really huge announcements really soon about a really great project that we're excited about. So stay tuned, adopt courage, and live limitless. Until next time, take care of your mind, body, and your soul. All right, and that's a wrap. Thanks so much for joining me inside the Limitless Lounge. I hope that today's episode has inspired you to take action, activate your life vision, stand up for the life you deserve, while giving you resourceful information to truly live limitless. To learn more about our guest or to work with me directly, be sure to visit Rainge.com. Now, if you loved today's episode, be sure to share your favorite takeaway and tag me on your favorite social media channel. Be sure to also leave a review on iTunes. I'm happy to connect on social, so follow me at Sierra Rainge on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Until next time, be sure to practice physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness. This is the true bag. It is the true key to life success. Sending you limitless love, signing off, your sister in success, Sierra Rainge-Jones.